Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by LegalZoom, where life meets legal. Start writing your 2018 story at LegalZoom.com. And for a special savings, enter promo code TWIST at checkout. And by Casper. Get $50 towards any mattress purchase, including free shipping and returns by visiting casper.com/twist and using promo code TWIST.
Hey everybody, welcome to This Week in Startups. I'm your host, Jason Calacanis, and today on the program, we got a very special episode. 5 founders are going to pitch me their ideas. They're going to do it over 2 minutes, which is an impossible task to get out all that information. And then I will savage them for your entertainment. I kid. I'm going to give them candid feedback, which is what founders need, because in life, when you get that candid feedback, it gives you the ability to improve and get through the hurdles that you'll face as an entrepreneur. We're lucky enough to have a live studio audience here with us today. Some students from a high school that a friend of mine is associated with came in. And so you may hear some cheering and oohs and ahs in the background, and I may take some questions from them at the end. Our first contestant on Jason, Please Savage My Company is Leanne. Is that right?
It is indeed.
Okay, welcome to the program, Leanne.
Thank you.
You have 2 minutes on the clock. Where you're from? Nobody cares. All they care about is your product, right? Mm-hmm. That's all that matters in this life is what you build. Mm-hmm. You agree?
I absolutely agree.
Okay, but you have an accent. Where are you from?
UK.
UK, all right. 2 minutes is on the clock, and I'll give you 5 minutes of feedback. You nervous?
A little bit.
Good. That'll increase your performance. Okay, 3, 2, go.
All right, Jason, do you know what a co-working space is?
Yes.
For those of you who don't, a co-working space is a shared office space with a community focus. So over the past year, so much money has been invested in co-working spaces around the world, and that is because demand is booming. I'm one of those people booming demand. I've been using co-working spaces for years, but 3 years ago, I moved to Hong Kong and wasted over a week searching all the different websites on Google, trying to find a co-working space that fit what I was looking for. And that is because there is no global platform out there for co-working spaces, unlike any other industry out there. So to solve my own problem, I built coworker.com, the global platform for finding and connecting with any co-working space in the world. You can filter by all kinds of amenities like standing desks, audiovisual equipment, podcasting rooms. You can browse photos, see rates, view office sizes, read member reviews, and most importantly, you can connect to co-working spaces directly, because that's what we do. We send co-working spaces leads with no fees or commissions. Now, over hundreds of co-working spaces around the world already have our sticker up in their window. And all of our traffic is organic. We're coming up to 60,000 users a month. And we rank really well on Google. For 800 cities, we're already in the top spot for this keyword syntax. And we're on track to be on the number one spot for every city by the end of the year. We have almost 7,000 co-working spaces in 125 countries on Coworker right now, over 5,000 of them claimed. And right now we're sending over 2,000 people a month into the doors of co-working spaces. We have thousands of unique member reviews. Member reviews are super, super important to us because they're the lifeblood of our community. And I want to introduce you here to Mateus. So Mateus is an owner of a co-working space in Bulgaria, and he uses the Coworker widget to show his latest reviews on his own website. In case you're wondering, yes, we do have an API for developers. And up until now, we've been completely free, but we're just launching premium plans to our existing spaces at the end of this month. We already added it to our sign-up form and have generated over $11,000 in revenue already. But Jason, I know what you're thinking. That is not scalable because there's not that many co-working spaces out there. We've got a ton of additional revenue streams that we're launching this year. Last slide, I promise. So right now, co-working is an emerging, fast-growing industry, multi-billion-dollar industry. We've spent 2.5 years building up our brand, and now Coworker is at the starting line.
Okay, let's give a big round of applause to Leanne Beasley. Well done. Okay. And so this was a great pitch. First off, you have enthusiasm for the space, and you speak incredibly well, very clean pitch. And I'm going to go through some of the check boxes and some of the notes I wrote down as an angel investor that built up my confidence in you and your credibility in my eyes. Because we are all in a zero-sum game in this life. There is only a certain number of checks I can write per year. You're fighting to get one of those checks. And that means that you have to beat out other people. Now, in life, sometimes they will tell you that you are a unique snowflake in all the world. And it's true, you are a unique snowflake in the world, but you're in a blizzard with a bunch of other unique snowflakes. You got to stand out, and you got to beat those other snowflakes. And so your ability to pitch your business where you explained a big, huge, booming market. She started out explaining how big this market was. That made me intrigued. Yeah, it is pretty big. And I was thinking, God, I wonder how she's going to make money off this huge, expanding market. But then you explain the problem. Hey, you need to find a place. It's hard to find. There's no central location. There's no Yelp of co-working spaces, which was great because I know the founders of Yelp. I know a lot of people who made a lot of money off of Yelp. So now you've drawn an analogy for me, a corollary, a company that I can look at as a comp, a comparative to what you're doing. It's early days, but yes, Yelp had early days too, where they were only in San Francisco. You also have coworker.com, which is an incredible domain name. That's a domain name worth at least $50,000 to $150,000. And I'm going to ask her in a minute how she got that domain and how much she paid, but let me just give you the rest of the feedback. She also whipped through this and got through some great features like, hey, you can search for a podcasting studio or see pictures or search for open desks, standing desks. And I just thought, wow, that's well thought out. Some people only work at a standing desk. Some people want a shared location. Some people want a closed office. So that was great. Then you got into traction. What is traction? That's one of the things I'm looking for as an investor. Can you identify a market? Yes. Leanne identified a market. Can she build is there a problem in that market? Yeah, there is a problem picking your co-working space and how arduous that is. It takes a lot of time. And then she came up with a product. Okay, checkbox, checkbox, checkbox. I'm believing in this story as she's telling it. And then the final thing is metrics or traction. Traction means, hey, are people starting to use this and is there any sign of life here? Now, in the early days, year 1 or 2 of a company, the traction will be modest. And we're looking for modest traction. The reason we're looking for modest traction is because that means there's an opportunity. Our market is emerging and it's not a done deal. If you're Netflix with 100 million paid subscribers, there's no opportunity for me as an angel investor. So I really thought this was an incredible pitch, especially when you got to the metrics and I said, hey, this person understands SEO, search engine optimization, and they're using that great domain name to get the number 1 rank and come up above WeWork or co-working, New York City co-working, Sydney, and you're trying to come up first. So that was great. And hey, listen, you're not making a ton of money, but you said you sent 2,000 leads. And back of the envelope, as an investor in Thumbtack, which is a lead gen business, I thought, well, those leads are worth $25 to $100 each because they have a lifetime value, an LTV, a lifetime value of, call it $1,000 a month times 24 months. So $24,000, people would spend $100 each of those leads. So I'll ask you a couple of questions here. How long, and with the questions, you want to be concise, how long has this business been in market?
October 2015.
Perfect. So you've been doing this for 2 years or so, just over 2 years. And 2017 revenue was tens of thousands of dollars, ballpark?
No, we only launched at the beginning of January, our premium subscriptions.
Perfect. So you've been building this without revenue. And so this is where there's a little bit of weakness in the business, which is the business model. But you addressed that here. And you said, hey, here's our premium listings. We're going to have premium listings and people will be able to pay us $149 a month to come up first. I thought that was pretty clever. But when you send these leads, you don't charge for the leads?
Nope.
Why not?
Because that's what makes us different to all the booking platforms out there. They charge commissions. We don't, which is how we were able to get so many spaces on the platform early on.
Okay, great answer. So you have a complete platform. Everybody's there. Would it not be a good idea to, now that you've got everybody, say, we'll charge for leads?
We're launching meeting room bookings this year, and we'll be charging for those leads. Well, booking fees.
Okay. So here we have a little bit of a disagreement. And just to take you inside the mind of an angel investor, the one red flag I have here is, how big can this be? Could it be as big as Yelp? Maybe. Who knows? And then the other thing I'm wondering, and you addressed that, the other thing I was wondering is she aggressively pursuing revenue and printing money? She's good at product. I can tell that. You have dexterity, great presenter, certainly has the passion. Those are all important checkboxes for me. But the one thing I'm left with is she going to aggressively print money with this business? Because I'm not just thinking about my investment. I'm now thinking about who comes after me. People like Sky Dayton come after me. People like venture capitalists, Chamath Palihapitiya comes after me. They are going to be looking for businesses that can hit true scale, 50 million, 100 million, or more a year in revenue. I look for businesses at $1 million a year in revenue, $500,000. That's my sweet spot. And you're right before that. So let's give her a big round of applause. Well done.
Thank you.
let me tell you a little bit about LegalZoom. You know them well, and it's 2018, and this is the year when you finally get serious about launching and running your own business. If you're listening to this podcast, you're into startups, you're into starting your own business, and we all know LegalZoom can help you, and they can help you right now. They've been helping people just like you take care of their dreams and responsibilities for more than 16 years. Now, LegalZoom is not a law firm, but they have the resources to keep you on the right path, including advice from their nationwide network of independent attorneys, all at your fingertips. You can just go in there, zip, 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 and get what you need, whether you want to take your business to the next level or take care of your family's future with an estate plan. LegalZoom plugs into your life without billing you by the hour, because at LegalZoom, all pricing is given up front. So here's your call to action. You can start writing your 2018 story at LegalZoom.com now. For a special savings, enter the promo code TWIST in the referral box at checkout. That's right, use the promo code TWIST and you will get a special savings. LegalZoom.com, where life meets legal. That's LegalZoom.com. What a great company and what a great supporter of independent media like this very podcast. Oh, speaking of which, let's get back to this amazing episode. Okay, let's welcome our next founder, Sophia. You're with Pandia Health.
Correct.
Okay, you have 2 minutes on the clock. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
3, 2, go.
Hi, my name is Dr. Sophia Yan, and I am here to make women's lives easier. When I was giving a talk on why women don't take their birth control, the main reason is they don't have it on hand. And I was like, this is a great opportunity to disrupt the monolithic pharmacy system. We will take birth control, ship it to you, and keep shipping it to you until you tell us to stop. However, when we ran ads for free birth control delivery, 60% of the women didn't have a prescription. I'm a doctor, I can write prescriptions, and thus Pandia Health was born. The market, 10.7 million women currently use the birth control pill, patch, or ring, and it's estimated that 7 million more would use it if easily available. We bring birth control to wherever you have internet and a mailbox. It doesn't get easier than that. It's a $4.6 billion market, and that's just with birth control alone. 45% of pregnancies in the United States are unplanned, and 64% in those 20 to 24 years old. The problem, every single month, if women don't get to the pharmacy by the end of that pack of pills, there will be a dire consequence. And women have better things to do than to run to the pharmacy every single month. Pandia's solution, from the privacy and comfort of your home, you can get an online doctor's visit for $39 once a year, and then we bill your insurance, mail the medicine to you, and keep mailing it to you until you tell us to stop. The target audience is women age 18 to 35. They're busy, they're moving around, they're new to healthcare, and the current pharmacy system just doesn't work for them. Why Pandia Health? Because we are founded by a physician, we are founded by a woman, and in this healthcare field, we instantly get trust. We also have unfair access to the target audience through campus organizations, through nonprofits, and through student health and our physician networks. We are founded by women. We have 80% retention at a year, and we're growing 10 to 30% month over month. We have $400 million in revenue by 2021 with 80 million per year in profit. And we have an amazing team. And if we're going to start with birth control, grow with women as they grow. And if you want to help build the brand that women trust, let's talk.
Okay, well done. Let's give a big round of applause to Sophia. Okay, and since we do have some high school students in the audience, I will let them know that it's totally fine to be sexually active when you hit 25 years old. I'm speaking on behalf of your parents. All right, so it's a little, what I like about your pitch is you got right to the heart of it. What's the problem? It's a pain in the neck to refill prescriptions, also a little embarrassing. And there is this an interesting moment where you have the online consultation. This, to me, seems like delivering drugs has been going on for a little while, 10 years or so, 15 years. So that's not innovative in 2018. But the online consultation is a relatively new thing. And so I'm going to have some questions about that. And she did show some traction, 1,000 people doing it. So we're going to want to know, how did she acquire those customers? How did she get those first 1,000? Because it's early traction. 1,000 customers seems like, oh, that's not a lot. That's just such a small amount. But you know what? Facebook had 1,000 members at some point, and Netflix had 1,000 members at some point, and these became huge businesses. So here we are. We might be on the doorstep of 1 million or 100 million subscription business at some point. But we want to ask her, and we're going to do that in just a second, about how did she acquire those first 1,000? Because as an angel investor, that can be quite telling. I'm not going to tell her how, but it can be. And then we're going to want to get into something called unit economics. What is unit economics? That means on each transaction, how much money do you make? If I were to go outside into San Francisco and go to Market Street and say, I'm selling $100 bills for $50, I would have a very long line. But that does not a business make. It makes a big mob scene, but it doesn't make a great business because you're losing money on every transaction. So let's start with that. Take me through the unit economics for your business.
Exactly. So with the telemedicine, we have 50% margin. So we make $20 on that once a year.
And the telemedicine, you mean the online consultation with a doctor?
Exactly.
So if I get my prescription, you get $20 in profit.
Yes.
And the doctor gets some amount,
Yes.
$100, $200?
Like $15 for that
15
time. We
bucks.
take a 30-minute in-person visit, take
Wow.
it down to 5 minutes for the doctor.
So 5 minutes, the doctor gets $15, you get 20.
Yes.
Doctors are excited about that?
Yes.
Okay, so that means of these 1,000 people you onboarded, if they did a consultation, you make 20,000. If you did 1,000 of these a month, you get 20,000 a month off the bat. You'd have $250,000 in revenue. That's nice. Now take me through the unit economics of delivering the birth control every month.
So with the medication, it's 30% margins, and roughly we get $30 from the insurance company. And once you take off all the overhead, it's down to $10 profit. Our customer acquisition costs, which we're doing through Facebook and Google AdWords and testing that, was originally $276. We got it down to $23 on a good day and are averaging $50. Okay. So with one telemedicine and 3 months worth of birth control, we've broken even.
Okay, so this is an important moment. She said it very fast, assuming that everybody in the audience here understands what she's saying. But to break that down, she's doing customer acquisition on Facebook's ad network, the same one that Putin used to swing the election. I'm kidding. It is the same network. We don't know if Putin actually swung the election. But it was costing her originally $250 to acquire a customer. If it costs you $250 to acquire a customer and you make $20 every month, wow, it's going to take you a year to break even on that customer. And if they cancel after 6 months or 3 months, what we call churn, you would lose money and that would be bad. Yeah. So you took that $250 and you said on a good day you got down to 20, but realistically 50. Yes. $50 means if you make $20 on the consultation and you make $20 off a month, somewhere in month 2 or 3, you've now hit profitability on the acquisition cost. So you can acquire customers. If Netflix was acquiring a customer and they paid $12 a month and they paid $50 in month 5, they would be in the black. Being in the red means you've lost money. Being in the black means you've made money. So the unit economics work here. The traction is good. I'm going to ask a question. How many FTEs do you have, full-time employees or equivalents?
Currently 5.
5. So you spend about $40,000 a month all in.
Yes.
Am I right?
This is your back of the envelope calculation.
Am I about right?
Yes.
Okay. So how did I guess that? You spend it 40. Well, here in San Francisco, it costs you about $10K a month per person all in. If you were in Florida, it might cost you $6,000 a month. In Canada, it might cost you $5,000 a month. But I can back of the envelope. So for you to break even on this business, you only have to hit, if you're making $20,000, 2,000 subscribers, $20 a month. You're covering your costs, and the rest is
profit.
Gravy. So it's a solid business, a good pitch. I would need to understand the competitive landscape a little bit more, but you're off to a very good start. How long have you been at it? When did you get your first subscriber?
Our first subscriber was mid-July 2016.
2016. So it's grown slowly. Explain why it's grown slowly and not quickly.
Well, it's a medical business, and so it's hard to acquire customers, and it requires trust, as well as we've been testing our customer acquisition. Got it.
So herein lies the rub. It is easy to start a business, right? Starting is easy. Finishing is hard. Okay, this is one of the expressions I tell founders when I meet them. Starting is easy. Finishing is hard. Starting the business, anybody can start a business. Most people don't, but anybody can. It's finishing that's hard. And in your case, Sophia, finishing is going to be, hey, can I get this to grow faster? Can I get to tens of thousands of people? And can I find a way to acquire customers on a regular basis? And that's going to be your next challenge. So let's give a big round of applause to Dr. Sophia. Casper is a sleep brand that makes expertly designed products to help you get your best rest one night at a time. Yes, Casper products are designed to mimic human curves by providing support and comfort for all kinds of body. Their breathable design helps you sleep cool, which is important to me, and regulate your temperature throughout the night. That was my big problem because I kept waking up. They have over 20,000 reviews, and they average a 4.8 star rating across Casper, Amazon, and Google. And they offer 3 types of mattresses: the Casper, the Wave, and the Essential. Also, they have pillows and sheets to ensure an overall better sleep experience. It's affordable because Casper cuts out that middle person, and they sell to you direct. Hassle-free returns if you're not completely satisfied, and it's delivered right to your door in a small, how the heck do they do that sized box? It's really a lot of fun to open up your Casper mattress. Free shipping and returns here in the US and Canada. You can be sure the purchase of your Casper is going to give you 100 nights risk-free sleep on it trial. So be sure that when you purchase it, you're going to get that Casper's 100-night risk-free sleep on it trial, which is amazing. Think about it. They're going to let you sleep on it for 100 nights and think it over. Amazing. The unboxing experience, spectacular. You will sleep better. You'll be more comfortable, and you're going to feel great when you wake up. So here is your call to action. You're going to get $50 towards select mattresses by visiting Casper.com/twist and using the promo code TWIST at checkout. Think about that. $50 off select mattresses by just going to Casper.com/twist. That's $50 towards select mattresses by visiting Casper.com/twist and use that promo code TWIST at checkout. Okay. Terms and conditions apply. You know that. Go ahead and visit Casper.com/twist. Okay, let's get back to this amazing episode. Okay, we've had a strong start with 2 great companies, great female founders. That's of note. We're seeing a lot more female founders in our industry here, which is awesome. And great presentations. And what I particularly liked about the first 2 presentations we heard were the Q&A sessions went very well. They were efficient. When a founder is asked a question, often they just start babbling and they answer any question they feel like. But they don't listen to the question that the journalist or the potential hire or the potential investor has asked. What you want to do is really concentrate and be present when a founder or an employee or a potential employee or a journalist is asking you a question about your business, and try to answer their question concisely with as few words as possible. That's the name of the game. All right, next up is Andrew Hill. Andrew, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you nervous?
A little bit.
Okay, that's fine. That's honest. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, go.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm the CEO of Lifted, and we help educators better teach and support their students with learning disabilities. So Lifted is a mobile tool that empowers special education teachers, speech, occupational therapists, and other specialists to continuously track students' progress against learning objectives. They can improve instruction using insights into students' learning trends and ultimately accelerate learning outcomes for kids with disabilities. This is Xavier. I met him about 3 years ago. He has autism, and this is his special education teacher. He's one of 6.6 million students with a disability in the United States. It's about 13% of our pre-K through 12th grade student population. And this can be anything from autism, a speech impediment, psychological health impairments. Also, students with a disability have a legal mandate. They're required to have individualized education plans every year, a set of goals they have to achieve, which makes it incredibly challenging for these educators to track students' progress, how they're differentiating instruction, let alone if it's even working, and it's usually done on paper, spreadsheets, and Google Docs. So Lifted provides a mobile app in order to constantly put the learning goals in front of the educator. We allow you to track progress in a few different ways, anecdotally, for example, a behavioral intervention, or quantitatively, and this data point goes into building students' learning trends that can be shared with other educators, parents, and school administrators. We sell using a student license, anywhere from $40 to $200 per year, depending on the category the student falls into. On average, we're doing about $8,000 a contract, and we sell directly to the school district. We launched in 2016 our beta version with 2 districts, and educators loved it. This past school year, we scaled up to 10 districts across 5 states. We did about $80K in revenue, and we have a path to do $1 million this coming school year.
Okay, let's give him a big round of applause. Oh, you still going?
Yeah.
Keep going.
A little bit about our leadership team. We're the perfect intersection of ed versus tech. My co-founder, Joanne, has her doctorate in special education, over 10 years of classroom experience as a teacher and a behavior analyst. I'm a past tech consultant, and I was named Forbes 30 Under 30 in education this year. And that's it, Lifted. Hope you guys spread the word and help us help the students who need it most.
Okay, well done. Let's give him a big round of applause. Okay. Now, as an angel investor, anytime somebody says healthcare or education or music, we all get very tense and scared because this is where everybody loses their money. It's very hard to invest in music companies because the music industry has been unkind to music startups and they tend to shut them down. Or they keep negotiating with them and charging them more and more money. You've seen Pandora, Spotify are constantly fighting with Taylor Swift and the record industry. It's just hard. And sometimes a company like Spotify will break out. Sometimes they get, more often than not, they don't work out. Healthcare, same thing. Healthcare moves slowly. There's a lot of regulation, something called HIPAA. Very hard to get a healthcare startup to the promised land. And education, it also suffers because education is underfunded and education is a slow sales cycle because they have to, you basically get a chance to sell into the school for this year. And if you miss it, next year.
Yep.
And meanwhile, if you're selling enterprise software or the birth controls company we saw earlier, they can sell to a new set of clients this afternoon, tomorrow. But they don't have like a 1 month window where either they get the customer or they don't. So it's particularly challenging, the space you've chosen to be in. What's very important as an angel investor is to know the why. Why is the founder choosing this business? So I'm going to lead with that question. Okay, I'm going to ask him why he chose this business. Let's all listen deeply to his answer. Hey, Andrew, why did you pick this business?
So I, as a tech consultant, used to design a lot of enterprise software and never really saw it go into market and wanted to gain ownership over products. So I left my consulting gig, I decided to pursue business school. And while I was there, my sister, who was also my co-founder, asked me to spend some time with her in a classroom. And she introduced me to Xavier, who you saw, who had severe autism, completely nonverbal. And I saw the impact that this kind of product could have on a student like him. And then I learned that there are another 7 million kids who are just like Xavier. So the impact and my ability to use technology there was huge.
Okay, this is a great answer. So I'll just get into the sportscasting here. We'll pause the action of the interaction between angel investor and founder. It's meaningful to his sister. Your sister, you said, is a teacher? Is that
Special
right?
ed teacher and behavior analyst. Yeah.
Right. So you got to see it firsthand. It's a very personal thing for your sister, who's a teacher, correct?
Correct.
And so that's good. I was waiting for you to say I was one of these students who had an IEP, but I think we both grew up before IEPs existed.
Yeah.
And I would have been definitely given an IEP, and I would
ADHD,
have had,
right
and
there.
probably would have had ADHD. Instead, I was just called a troublemaker. But this is true. You have to track with an IEP. The child is, Jason is on task 60% of the time. By the end of the year, we like to see Jason be on task 80% of the time. And then how do they do that? They have somebody come in and observe, and they watch. Okay, I'm going to watch for an hour. Is Jason on task or not? How many minutes was he on task? Okay, great. He's making progress or he's not making progress. We can do another IEP. And you pointed out in your presentation deftly that this is a requirement.
Correct.
No student left behind. You are not allowed to say, this student is autistic, they've fallen behind, this student is ADHD. They have a mandate. Public schools are forced to spend the money to get these students over the finish line, correct?
Absolutely.
So it's very expensive. What is and I'm going to ask a question here now. I'll take us away from the action for one moment and tell you why I'm asking this question. I'm probing to see the knowledge of the founder and how well they can answer questions. Why? Well, you want to invest in knowledgeable people, and you want to see if people have the ability to answer questions concisely and confidently, and that they have some domain expertise. So here we go. So tell me, how much does the average student on an IEP cost compared to a non-IEP special needs? Is special needs the proper term?
That's correct.
Okay, I want to make sure I'm using the proper politically correct term. Special needs kids, what do they cost on average compared to a regular student to educate?
So there isn't a blanket answer there. It depends on the disability. But you can go on average about 2x. So per pupil spend in a school district, it's about $10K for a student in general education.
Okay.
Double that for a student who has a disability. If you have autism, depending on the severity, for example, you can get up to 3 or 4 times that.
Okay, so if it's just double, that means it would be 10K extra. 10K extra, you're only charging $200 per student to make it massively more effective, I would think. So you're only charging 2% of that increase in cost.
Yeah.
Is that the right price, or is it too cheap?
We believe so.
2% of the increase in cost. So how much do you save them by having this tool? How much more efficient is a special needs teacher?
Well, one way to think about it is if the school district gets sued by a parent who says their student is not making progress, that on average costs about 40 to 60 grand per child.
And when that happens, what happens? The parents just get a $40K check, or
they usually settle out of court.
Wow!
And the student gets placed in an out-of-district placement. The school is responsible for paying for that.
Wow!
Yeah.
So what you're selling is, oh my God, the fear of and reducing that cost. So again, $200 per student to mitigate that risk of a $40,000 settlement and a $50,000 school. I'll ask you again, is $200 too cheap?
So I think you're honing in on one end of our price point, and that is 700,000 students who have autism. There's another 5 million who have other disabilities where we can't command that kind of price point because the disability isn't as severe.
Can't command $200 a year.
Correct.
Okay. So the total addressable market here is 10 million students or so?
7 million.
7 million students. Average price point about 100. So there's a $700 million TAM.
Yep.
Bottom up.
In schools. We also sell to therapy centers.
Okay, wow. So that could be some of the same people.
Exactly. Yeah, but the therapy center is still paying. So it's an ancillary market for us.
Twice. Okay,
Yep.
Double dip. Okay, so let me explain to you some of the buzzwords you heard thrown around. Total addressable market, TAM. This is how big is the market for this product. What is the TAM of a bottle of water? It's 100% of everybody in America might want to buy a bottle of water. Now, a bottle of vodka, you got to take out the 80 million kids in the United States. You get down to, hopefully, and you get down to the people who are of age to buy it. And then if you got to some other more obscure product, it might be less. So here, the TAM is how many students are there who could benefit from this, and then how much do you charge them on average? And that's called a bottom-up total addressable market. The reason it's bottom-up is because we did the math right here. He said there's 7 million. He said he charges 40 to 200. We just cut the difference and put 100. Back of the envelope, $700 million market. If he captures 10% of a $700 million market, he's got a $70 million business with probably a 50% profit margin, which means $35 million in profits, which means you'd value the business at 20 times that if you capture 20 times the market, which means you got a $700 million company, almost a unicorn. Fascinating business with a lot of risk factors. Let's give a big round of applause to Andrew Hill.
Thanks.
Nicely done, Andrew. Nicely done. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to This Week in Startups. This is the show where I, Jason Calacanis, angel investor, talk to founders about how they want to change the world. Today on the program, as you're hearing, we're having founders pitch for 2 minutes. Why 2 minutes? Because it's incredibly hard. And I want to see how they do under an extreme condition. Right? It's like the SEALs, the Navy SEALs. They don't let them just swim across the pool. They swim across the pool and they're carrying a cinder block with a hose in their face. I'm that cinder block. Okay? And we're giving my trademark candid feedback. And I would say today I'm being kind of nice because I got a studio audience full of young high school students. And I'm trying to behave myself. But usually I'm a little more brutal than this. You want to take the blue pill or the red pill?
Oh, the red pill.
The honest pill, right? Okay, you saw the Matrix. Great. So our next contestant on Savage My Startup is Hoda. Hoda, are you ready? Are you nervous?
I'm very nervous, but I'm ready.
Okay. Remember, never worry. Never worry. It's all going to be fine.
I'm going to channel the nervousness here.
Yes, exactly. Put it just like a mutant from the X-Men. You got to put your special power to work, okay?
Gotcha.
Here we go. 3, 2, go.
Hi, I'm Hoda. I'm co-founder and CEO of StockCard. So it's no surprise to anyone that the 9-to-5 working style is on the decline. And one of the reasons or driver behind it is the gig economy, because people can make money off the things they own. But what if the thing that you own is what you know? So you're a domain expert, you specifically know a couple of industries or a couple of products very well. There is no Airbnb for your brain. It's not as easy to rent out what you know on a platform as easy as you can rent out the extra bedroom that you have. So one can say that the gig economy is leaving behind domain experts and people who have a specific knowledge in the specific industry. people like me and my co-founder. Both of us had more than 20 years of experience developing very successful consumer digital products, but we were not ever able to make money off of the gig platforms, off of domain expertise that we have. So we created StockCard. StockCard is a platform for people with domain expertise to be able to make money off what they know in the form of picking and recommending investment ideas. So someone like Helen. Helen is a strategist. She evaluates startup companies, for technology companies, for acquisitions. And she used her ability to evaluate companies to pick stocks in the stock market very successfully. She comes to our platform, create a portfolio easily, takes a few seconds. She doesn't need to do anything. All the data collections and everything is done on the platform. All she needs to do is just pick up how much money she wants to charge for her recommendations. And voila, her portfolio is on our portfolio store. And we charge a flat fee of 30% on her subscription fee. On the other side is Jonathan. Jonathan looks for investment advice for people who he trusts. And the platform, such as Helen, and the platform takes Helen's advice and translate them to instant insights. Jonathan doesn't need to learn anything complex financial or spend hours Googling to learn things. It's all available to him for his consumption, his consumption. So we've launched an open beta. We're still in open beta 4 months ago. We're growing an average of 4% per week. We spend zero on marketing. It's all organic. And we have a very good on-par retention to our industry. And this is, I promised the last slide, the reason we're being very successful and we think this is work is that we're creating a new category in the investment advice sector. Basically, we're bringing simple and standardized investment advice from people who you trust. So I'm going to just go here and go on StockCard.io, feel the power of gig economy for your brain.
Okay, let's give her a big round of applause. All right. Well done, Hoda. Now, this was a little bit of a confusing pitch because she's doing something new. So it took us a little while to understand what the business itself was. You're selling subscriptions to people who have knowledge in picking stocks, apparently, for $20 a month. I think I understand the business, and you've got a couple of hundred people doing that. So it's interesting. It seems like it's early days. And I thought, I'm always wondering with a very sort of open mind and asking myself while the founder's pitching, is what she's saying actually true or not? Do I believe it? And that's what you should be asking yourself whenever you say anything in your life, right? Do we believe this basic argument as we move forward, right? So as we hear the founder saying this is why they should exist in the world, we're trying to draw like check marks and say, that seems 80% true. That seems 50-50. I'm not sure if I buy that. And so Airbnb for knowledge, I thought, wow, that's interesting. Okay. I've heard of this before. It's called Quora. People give away, but they give it away for free for social points or credits. But then there were these things called expert networks for a while where they would find somebody who worked at a company, find a hedge fund manager who wanted information on what was happening at Google or something. They would find somebody who was working at Google and anonymize them and get $5,000 paid to them. And they would take $5,000 to let a hedge fund manager ask questions to the Google person, which were inappropriate questions that they should not have answered. And then a lot of people went to jail using these or got in trouble using these expert networks. So you're taking the approach of this is like a magazine subscription and you're showing the previous performance of the person. And so I have seen this idea many times from thestreet.com, which charged for watching Jim Cramer's portfolio. And there's always this inherent question of, well, if the person is that good of a picker, why do they want to make 70% of $20, $14, as opposed to just trading on their own stock portfolio and not dealing with crumbs, right? That's the cognitive dissonance I'm having right now. Cognitive dissonance, everybody knows what that means. You have two conflicting ideas in your mind, and you have to let one resolve it. So I'm going to ask you to help me resolve this issue that I'm having, which is, why should I trust anybody who wants me to pay them $20 a month when they could be trading their own portfolio?
Sure. So you asked a couple of questions.
I'm asking you to answer the one I'm asking, yeah.
So it's basically what is already happening, right? People already pay for a lot of stock picking newsletters, investment advice, such as Multifool, the Value Line. There's several of them. The people already pay north of, starting from $12 per month all the way to $50, $60 per month to be able to get the investment advice of people who've already done it. And then the other thing I wanted to add is that we're not limited on the stock market. We're only doing it for stock market in our open beta.
Okay. So you may go into other categories where people could sell advice or knowledge.
Knowledge.
Okay. So the reason that this works, and I felt like you gave me an okay answer, but I don't feel totally satisfied, to be candid, as an investor with it's existed already. People already pay for picking $50, $60 a month. We're only 20. Yeah, I'm wondering how big of a market it is. Feels to me like, okay, so then the argument is you're a platform with many of these as opposed to just buying one?
Well, the idea is that's the new category creation comes in. Everybody who already exists is basically just allow the people who are picking the advice just write down an article and say for these reasons and that reasons. There's no common and standard language to be able to compare different stock picking advisors. And what we do is that the advisors don't need to write anything down. We do all the data collection and we standardize it in an easy to understand language.
Okay.
So that's the differentiation. You don't need to read multiple articles and every single person who recommend, it's basically comparable in a standard language.
Okay. So here's what I'll say in terms of taking you out of this discussion for a second and sportscasting, what's going through my mind as an angel investor and what I think would go through other investors, which is I always say to myself, if I don't understand the idea, that's okay. A lot of these ideas are crazy. The idea of Airbnb was absolutely insane. As I always tell people, I would never stay in an Airbnb. I'm going to stay on somebody's couch, really, like a serial killer's couch, or I'm going to let somebody stay on my couch, really. I'm going to let, some drug addicts or insane serial killers stay on my couch. No, thank you. But here we are. People are staying in Airbnbs every night, all the time, as people can't get enough of it. People love being hosts. Somehow they figured it out. So I, as the angel investor, don't need to know if your idea is going to work. I need to know if you're going to succeed in your life, right? I don't need to know the idea is going to succeed. I need to know if you're going to succeed. I get a good vibe from you that you're very smart and considered. So it makes me say, I don't understand the idea, but this feels like a credible, smart person. So it makes me want to drill down more. And so I try not to necessarily figure out if your idea is going to work. I just try to look at the metrics. So that's where I think, because you have a novel idea, because there's not a lot of corollaries to it in the real world, and it's kind of weird and quirky, you would agree? It's a little bit quirky?
Well, it starts from people who want to invest in different things. So you need to have a little bit of that.
Yeah, but it's a little bit of quirky. The business is a little quirky, you admit. Like it doesn't exist in the real world all that much.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so whenever you're going to do that as an entrepreneur and you're building a business that doesn't yet exist, that means it's going to take a while for people to get it. My number one rule in life, never underestimate anyone. You know why I have that rule, Hoda?
Well, I read your book, so I kind of
So you know why I have that.
I know.
The reason I have this rule, never underestimate anyone, is because I was so consistently underestimated in my life. And I've overperformed everybody's expectation of me except for my mom's. She's like, I always knew that there was something special about you and you were doing so well in your life. It was obvious to me from the beginning. But I had a 71 3-year average at my high school. And I'm the most famous person from my graduating class. They keep asking me to buy a building. I don't return their emails. I was like, you guys weren't super nice to me. It wasn't like the students here who go to an amazing school where they really care for them. I didn't feel particularly cared for. All right, listen. But enough about my own issues. Really good job. I think my best advice to you, I always like to have this be super helpful to founders. Every interaction I have with a founder, I want them to walk away feeling good and that they learned something and that they felt heard. Hopefully you felt heard, even in this short format. And that maybe I could give them something to think about. In your business, what I think you're going to need to think about is answering that key question I had. And then how big can this get? And you're going to have to prove it through metrics. So what you're going to need to do is look at those early people paying and really survey them and talk to them yourself. Don't be afraid to talk to those 400 people. I would email all 400 this weekend a 5-question survey and give them a $25 gift card if they do fill it out, and say, hey, can you answer these 5 questions, or maybe send it to 100 of them so you don't blow the bank account out, or just 10 of them. And ask them questions just to try to understand the business, because when you're doing something new, you don't understand why people are using it sometimes. It turns out sometimes, people buy the iPhone, and when they first came out, everybody was like, well, how good of a phone is it? Well, the percentage of time people are on the phone in their iPhone is 0.01%. 99.9% of your usage of your iPhone had nothing to do with the phone. It should be called the iText or the iSnap, or I Instagram.
Right.
I Instagram, right? So that's what you need to learn is that there's what you think people might be spending money on might be radically different. All right, let's give Hoda a big round of applause.
Thank you.
Okay, we are having a great time here on This Week in Startups, meeting awesome founders and talking to them about their businesses. My number one rule, of course, never underestimate anyone. A lot of times these startups early on, they're awkward, it's weird, it's confusing, and then the awkward teenager with the squeaky voice and maybe the design of the product's not so great, all of a sudden they mature into something beautiful and amazing that actually changes the world. Almost all these startups, when I meet them, even the biggest ones, are awkward and they're kind of duct taped together, patchwork, scrappy, before they're polished. My job as an angel investor then, of course, is to squint a little bit and say, hey, I could see that working. It's easy to make a list of why things won't work in this world. It's easy to be negative. My job is to suspend disbelief and take that big list of problems and reasons why things won't work and rip it up and throw it away, and then think about the 2 or 3 reasons why something might work. All right, our final pitch is from Danielle.
Yes.
Good to see you. You have 2 minutes on the clock. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you nervous in any way? Get right up on that
I'm
microphone.
excited.
Just get a little closer to that microphone.
Great.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, cool.
3, 2, go.
I'm Danielle Baskin, and I have started many companies. A custom bicycle helmet company, a tricycle rental company, a VR tour company, a branded fruit company, an event production company, and a dozen other projects. How am I able to do all this? I have a great boss. Meet my boss. My boss is an app called Your Boss, and it's a network of self-employed people that act as each other's bosses. These are all my bosses. We regularly communicate with each other. We live in all different locations and work on different things, but we share common obstacles. In 2017, there were 57.3 million self-employed people in the US. And at that rate, that's expected to grow to 40% by the year 2020. And it's possible at that rate that by the year 2027, that the majority of the workforce is self-employed. And here's an issue when you leave your office. You miss all that support system that the office provides, like the mentoring, the career development, the discussing of obstacles, and just like daily enjoyment. You miss that social interaction, and it could be really frustrated working on your own. And so we've created a peer-to-peer support network where people can talk to each other on your phone. It requires very little effort, but the ability to talk, and you're able to solve issues together. People have very different backgrounds, but they are working on common things. So the ceramicist, the museum fabricator, we're discussing contract laws. Our team is me, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and Max Hawkins, who's a former Apple and Google engineer and a call software expert. We've logged hundreds of hours of calls since September. And I've been talking to people on the network, and they really love it. It's delightful to get a call every few days, but also they've been able to verbalize these issues that they were facing that they wouldn't have otherwise talked about and get things done. So this is a monthly membership, and it uses the internet, so the call quality is great. And we can also pipe in audio. The conversations are facilitated. And we're excited to provide this solution for people that are going to be out of offices soon.
Great. Let's give her a big round of applause. Okay, you're my wild card. I'm listening to this narrative, and I'm checking a bunch of boxes, right? We heard a pitch earlier. Hey, people are working independently. Co-working spaces are a big trend. This is dovetailing that trend. People are working in small groups, and they don't go to a big office. They're self-employed, so they need a desk somewhere. So part of what you do is also being done by co-working spaces. It's all addressing the same problem, a bunch of people working alone. But you have a very novel, interesting approach to this that I have never heard, which is you get a bunch of people, you charge them $5 a month to be part of this little mastermind group, if I can use a term, and somehow you connect them to talk to each other to make them feel less isolated and to make them better at their jobs. Am I understanding the business?
Totally, yeah.
Okay. So the reason this business exists is to make people working alone feel less lonely, or is it to make the people working home alone more effective at their jobs through talking to people who know more than them?
It is absolutely both of those things.
Both of those things.
Yes.
So you're selling friendship and camaraderie and also efficacy at your job.
Yeah.
All right. So this pitch is not good, but the idea is brilliant. And I can tell you in this life, if you had a brilliant idea and a bad pitch, or a bad idea and a great pitch, you would pick what you have, which is the pitch is not great, but the idea I think is simply brilliant.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that because I know people who work at home and they get weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
They stop showering. They start talking to themselves. They start talking to the cat. It gets weird. And it's going to be a trend. And people also feel very isolated in this world. Your idea, if you master it, could work for people just generally. It doesn't have to do anything to do with work.
Yeah.
Right? And so there is something unique about what you're doing. It's a very interesting insight into it's lonely out there and you experienced it. And we didn't have to ask Danielle, why are you building this business? The magic is Danielle told us, I built 6 businesses myself, including the fruit one, which is I would have invested in, but you just went right past that. I thought, engraved fruit to me is a no-brainer. Yeah. I would love to give bananas away with launch on them and This Week in Startups on them. That's brilliant. Is that laser cutting them or what are you doing?
Die cut. Vinyl that's melted on. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Avocados are the bestseller.
Avocados are the best seller. Well, that's the thing with the millennials. That's why they can't own homes, because they're buying all that avocado toast. It's terrible. All right, listen. I have so many questions about this, and I don't think I can get through all of them here, so I'm going to just ask a couple of them, which is examples. I'm going to give you a tip. Examples really matter in a pitch. And so I like that you showed us like who these people were, startup founder, et cetera. What would have been really deft of you in this pitch, and I hope for you to do in other pitches, is to say, here's an example of 2 people. This person is a startup founder and this person works in ceramics. And here's what they said about their call, right?
Yeah.
And here's the problem they solved with their call. So the efficacy as told through your customers is always better than you telling the efficacy. And you had that one quote that somebody loved it, but I didn't get the sense of what problem was solved. So
I have
can you
audio
give us,
clips.
well,
but
we don't have time for it,
yeah.
but what I'll say right now is, can you give us one example, the best example since you know your business, of a person having their life changed by this product?
Someone was convinced to leave San Francisco and move to New York. He never really considered moving, and then it was 2 people connected in different cities. So one was in Austin, one was in San Francisco, and they were sometimes people just start chatting, unrelated to the question they're answering, and they were talking about San Francisco, and then
how broken it is.
Yeah, and then they started talking about New York, and suddenly, like the guy that lives in San Francisco, like he lit up and started talking about all these things about opportunities in New York, and the other guy was like, why don't you just move? And he actually moved 2 weeks later.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought this was going to be a love connection, but it does apparently doesn't. It's not a love connection. It was just great advice.
Yeah.
How do you match people together? I got another question.
Okay. So right now it's completely random because
like chat roulette.
Kind of. Yeah. Because there's a lot of unexpected overlap. I think there's an issue if you're communicating with the same kind of people every day that you might not like. It's good to have to explain your idea to someone who doesn't have any context for you.
I like that.
Yeah.
So you connect them, and then they say to each other, "What is the prompt? Is there a prompt, or you just connect the call? Is there some prompt?"
Yeah.
Okay, tell us about the prompts.
So it's kind of cute. There's like this synth music and this robot voice that gives you both a question to think about and then answer to the other person.
Oh.
So that's why it's called your...
Give us an example then.
Of a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you use the synth voice too?
So welcome to the Your Boss Network. I'm not going to do the synth voice, but an example.
Welcome to the Your Boss Network.
Yeah.
Your question today
we have all these
is-
different robot voices. Your question today is, what's the biggest obstacle you have this week? Or why did you miss your last deadline? Or what are you most excited about doing?
Wow.
We have like 30 different questions, and it randomizes a question. Yeah.
All right. I have so many questions about this. I'm going to keep going. And this is a sign of a really, just so you know, if you're meeting with an investor, when they keep having questions like this, usually a good sign that something's going on. So here's another question for you, which is, how do you choose who to allow into the network? Because it would seem to me that if I was an attorney or a real estate broker or a money manager or a service person, I might join this to harangue people into using my services. And if somebody is obnoxious or otherwise too candid and brutal in their discussions with people, you might get complaints because you're taking a big risk connecting two random people. What if somebody says something completely inappropriate to the other person?
Right. And there's the option to just report that person and never match with them again.
Okay, so that's how to deal with the problem. But how do you deal with having high quality people in there?
I think it's self-selecting. So people that wouldn't, I mean, you're working on something, you don't want to reveal information about it. You just wouldn't join or you wouldn't talk about the thing. We found that people end up discussing out of work stuff. Someone was discussing their workout plan.
Great.
So the conversations can go in many different directions. And I think like the ultimate goal is just to connect people and make people feel supported in their independent endeavors. Yeah.
How long has this product been in market?
Since September, but it's a closed beta right now because we're still like working out the call software. Yeah.
How much have you raised to date?
0.
Bootstrapped.
We were just working on it on our own.
Just working on the weekends, nights. Got it.
Yeah.
And $5 a person. How did you come to that price? That seems far too cheap.
That we want it to be affordable for everyone. I mean, it's like
terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. Don't try to be affordable.
Yeah.
Try to maximize revenue so you have the resources to make the product better. Listen, if one person makes a phone call, and if you get one phone call a year and it results in an opportunity or an epiphany for you, that's worth thousands of dollars. At least charge $100 a year and make people pay a year up front is my best advice.
Yeah.
Because you want to have that filter for people. There are people charging for these mastermind groups, which I'm sure you know what they are.
Yeah.
Mastermind groups are some weird trend online where people get paid, they each pay $500 to a leader, and the lead, like you're kind of in that group of self-help and improvement. A book costs $20, an audiobook costs $10. Like you could charge $100 a year. Don't underestimate your value. Now, using the iTunes monthly subscription plan for your product, or are they going to your website direct? You use that iTunes subscription?
Oh, yeah. So it would be, through the app.
Good. That's an amazing thing. iTunes subscriptions are magical. I have an investment in Fitbod and an investment in Calm.com, which are both based off monthly subscriptions and are very much helped by Apple's iTunes subscription product, which has really been something that founders have been figuring out is powerful.
Yeah.
All right. Continued success, Danielle. This is super inspiring, as is the monogrammed fruit.
Yeah, cool.
All right. You are a unique snowflake in all the world, but charge $100 and then you'll
have
something worth a lot of money and then you'll get more investment. $5 too cheap.
Cool.
$10 just right. Okay.
Thanks.
And by the way, it falls under the category of perceived value. I just want to make another point about money. When you charge only $5, I think it's cheap. I think it's a bad
10
experience.
is better, yeah.
When it's 10, it's like Netflix, and you want half the people to say that's too expensive, and you want the other half to be super vested.
Yeah.
Because then they'll drag the other half in. The laggards are going to say everything's too expensive. The vanguard's going to be like, I'll pay anything to try something new. I want to do new stuff, right? So not everybody buys the $200 AirPods or the iPhone at first. The cutting edge people do. You want to exclude the laggards and you want to reward the cutting edge people by charging $100 a year upfront.
Yeah.
I think, or $10 a month. So it's like, or $12 a month, $100, you'll get this better quality of person. I would like you to put me on your monthly update if you are so inclined. And you have my email, jason@calacanis.com. Please just don't tell anybody else.
Okay, great.
Okay. Thank you. All right, let's give her a big round of applause. How fantastic was that? Now, I'm going to go through the 5 companies that we saw, and I'm going to do a quick evaluation of how I ranked them. Okay, here we go. We had coworker.com, Leanne's company. She was a great presenter, and she had modest traction, a little concerned about the revenue model. I think it's a good business. I think it's off to a great start, but I wonder how big it could get. So I liked it. I didn't quite love it yet. Then we had, I'm just going to go through these in a random order. Then we had Andrew from Lifting Education. Anything that's in education for kids who are special needs, of course, it pulls your heartstrings. But I'm very worried about that yearly process. I'm also worried about how cheap it is. Maybe it needs to be more expensive. But I do know that those IEP teachers want to track this stuff, and it's currently tracked in Google Docs or Microsoft Word. So this would be much, or maybe once in a while, it's probably tracked on an Excel spreadsheet or something, or a spreadsheet, but it's usually tracked on paper. So I do think they want that product, but I hate the education sector because it's very hard to make these companies survive and get critical mass. So I'm intrigued, but I'm a little worried about it in that space. Hoda, I don't understand the business exactly, so she's going to have to prove it to me with her stock cards. I want to see a little bit harder proof there that people actually want this product. But she's in that early phase where she's experimenting, so that's okay. She's got to, if you're going to do something unique in the world, you got to be open-minded. So I hope that when she talks to those customers, and she talks to every customer, especially the ones who churn and stop paying, she tries to figure out what their goals were. And it's a time to experiment. Maybe stocks are great, but maybe relationship advice is better. Maybe educational advice is better. Who knows? Sophia from Pandia Health with birth control and subscriptions. I thought, hey, she's been doing this for a while, and she's figured out her revenue model. So now it's time to hit the gas a little bit, and let's see that growth. And if we could see consistent growth month over month, then it would become more interesting to me. Right now, it's very nascent with 1,000 people subscribing. But if we see 20% growth month over month, and all of a sudden it starts to trend towards 5,000 people, wow, we're starting to see something there, and she would hit break even with as little as 2,000 customers. And then last but not least, Danielle with the Boss Company, as you could tell from my enthusiasm, I thought this is the most unique of them. And I'm looking for things that are unique and that are not obvious, because things that are unique and not obvious, like Uber, Airbnb, or SpaceX, pick the interesting company in the world. When people do something really unique like that, it could have an outsized return. When something is more, let's say, obvious or apparent, right? Like the Yelp of co-working spaces. I've heard that pitch before. It seems like a very, I don't want to say obvious idea, but it sounds like an idea that the world needs. It should be there, but it's not weird and out there. I think, for example, Coworker has an 80% chance, 90% chance of working. In other words, becoming a self-sustaining business, which is amazing. But I think something like Hoda's stock card or Danielle's Boss product, your Boss, those are such wild ideas that are out there. They may have a 10% chance of surviving and actually making it. But they might have 100 or 1,000x outcome because they're so new, but they have also this challenge of maybe changing people's behavior. And if you've got to change people's behavior and create a new market, that's very hard. An example of that would be, with something like Uber or Lyft, they have more Lyfts and Ubers on the road than yellow cabs. So how is that possible, right? Didn't they take the market away from them? No, they built a bigger market. The thing that none of us who invested in Uber or the investors in Lyft knew was that people might actually get rid of their cars and go full Uber or maybe never buy a car and just say, you know what, I'd rather spend $500 a month or $800 a month on Uber X's and Uber Pools and not take the subway or, not have a car, and that would be a better deal for me. So somebody who gives up their car, which costs $700 a month all in, is going to spend whatever, $8,000 a year with Uber. They wouldn't have spent that on yellow cabs. They were not consistent enough. They took too long to get there. It was too much hardship to take cabs everywhere. But Uber's being predictable, and you get them in 1 or 2 minutes, and they're super affordable. That made it all palatable for people. So I'm going to ask our audience to pick one and one only, their favorite. And then Jackie will just give we'll eyeball it. Okay, here we go. How many people's favorite company was Coworker? Raise your hand. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or so. Okay, how many people's favorite was Andrew's lifting education? Raise your hand if you like lifting education. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 about. Okay, I think. Hoda's stock card. Who found that really super interesting? Hoda's stock card. Okay. It's confusing for people. Okay. Sophia's birth control, Pandia Health. How many people like that one the best? Okay, about 5. And then how many people like Danielle's Your Boss? Okay, and that's the winner with 20 people. So interesting. You're just all following my enthusiasm, but that's fine. I think that's a wise move. If I was in your shoes, no. It was obviously sort of a very interesting. And you're not millennials. You're Generation Z. You're Gen Z or Gen C. You're the connected generation. You're the empowered, connected, internet-only generation. So it makes sense that you would like that idea, because it would be appealing to you to talk to random people on the phone. I mean, you people are all doing Snapchat all day. It's ridiculous. Your lives are not that important. You shouldn't be documenting them. You should be working on your schoolwork. I'm kidding. Document away. All right, we're going to take 2 questions from students. We're looking for concise, probing, challenging questions.
Can we get this mic up? Mike?
Okay, and are you going to walk to the microphone? Oh, wow, here we go. All right, just jump to the microphone.
Yes,
You got
go
to.
ahead.
Is this like this is like the Hunger Games. Whoever gets to the microphone first. Don't knock each other up. We got one person. All right, here we go.
For someone wanting to start like a business or an app, what would you recommend?
Great question. So, what would you recommend to somebody who wants to start an app or business? So, you want to do something that is personally meaningful to you in your early business career. And the reason is, it's really hard. And if you're not motivated by what you're doing, you're going to give up. So, saying, I think that doctors need this app or bus drivers need this other app and, people who are accountants need this software. That's not as powerful as saying, I need this software. If you have that itch and you want to scratch it, then it becomes something where you are motivated and you have insight. So I look for something that's personal, and I wouldn't be afraid to do something small and intimate for your first company. Make something that you really want to see in the world, especially when you're early in your career. There's plenty of time to have things that hit huge scale and change the world. But a lot of the projects out there that have changed the world, they started as very personal projects. For example, YouTube was probably the 50th company at that time who I saw pitching video hosting. But it was very personal for the people doing it because they're like, there's no easy way to get a video on the internet. I have to buy a server and put stuff on there. And all these places want to charge me. What if we could do it for free? And they just built it because they wanted to have some easy way to share videos. And that's the best way to pick a business. Because I'm telling you, running these businesses is arduous and hard. 90% of the time, 9 out of 10 days as a founder are just absolutely brutal. And the 10th day is soul crushing. It's never easy to be a founder. And if you do your job as a founder, the problems you will face as you go forward will become harder and more complex. If you look at a company like Tesla, Elon's company, he got the first Roadster out there. It did like 200 miles, but maybe really 150 if you drove it like a sports car is supposed to be driven. And it cost $160,000. Then it came out with the Model S. It cost $70,000, and it went 200 real miles. Now he's got the Model 3 out. It's going 300 plus miles. It costs $65,000. And even while he's doing all this, you have people on the internet who are like throwing rocks at him and being like, oh, F you, Elon. I have to wait 6 months for my car. Or, oh my God, it's all the supercharger stations are filled. And it's like, he built an electric car that goes 300 miles and he built a supercharging network across the country. Can we just appreciate that for a second? That you can drive anywhere in the United States on electricity for free? It's an incredible achievement. Yet everybody's throwing rocks at him. And this is what you have to know as a founder, is that it's going to be hard. And people who are losers and people who do not have the courage and who feel bad about themselves are going to throw rocks at you. And what you have to do is realize that their rocks are meaningless and they just have to do with them feeling bad about themselves. You have to ignore it all and plow ahead. But pick something that's personal and meaningful to you. Okay, let's take another question.
What are the main red flags or things that you will notice in like a startup or a beginning business?
Great question. Wow, this is a good question. So the red flags, there are many. People who are not building the business for a personal reason, to dovetail with my previous answer, I've asked people, why are you doing this business? And they say, oh, I'm doing this business because, I had this like recently. Pinterest is like really a horrible business and, they don't have this feature. And I'm like, well, Pinterest is an amazing business and people love Pinterest. So that's a false premise, right? Because I'm thinking every time somebody pitches me, is what they're saying actually true? Because founders are super convincing, right? These founders were all great. You want to believe all of them, but you have to assess it for yourself. So I was looking at it going, well, when this person's telling me Pinterest is a bad business, I'm like, well, I think there's like hundreds of millions of people on the internet who disagree with you, but okay, keep going. And they don't have this feature. Okay, by the way, they have hundreds of brilliant people working over there. They have outlined every possible feature on a big production board, and they're picking which ones they do. If you're right that they missed this feature, well, that would be a miracle because they got all these smart people there. And if you do prove it's a great feature, they're just going to bolt it on and immediately add it to their product. So just adding a feature does nothing. When you build a company, it's got to be 10 times or 20 times better, not 10% better. Nobody needs a 10% better product. The iPhone was 10 times better than the smartphones that came before it. The Tesla cars are 10 times better. SpaceX rockets are 5 or 10 times better than the existing rockets out there because they can land themselves, right? Like broadband is 1,000 times better than dial-up. That's why AOL lost all its subscribers and everybody went to broadband internet. So you have to understand this as a founder and not be incremental, but you have to be really exponential. You have to have this 10x solution. So people who are just doing it to make money and they don't want to grow something that's 10x better, that's a major red flag for me. Okay, everybody, this has been an amazing episode of This Week in Startups. Great founders. Thank you to them for putting it all out there. And if you want to contact those founders and invest in their businesses or try them, go ahead. And let me thank these great, energetic students for their awesome questions. All right, and I'll thank Emmy Award-winning producer Jackie for putting together another amazing episode. Go ahead and thank her on your Twitter. And remember, if you do anything today, if you appreciate this episode and you made it to the 60th minute of the episode, you need to stop what you're doing right now and write a review on iTunes for my mom. She reads every single one, and she appreciates. You can mention her in the review too, like, "Dear Jason's mom, we really love this episode," and all that kind of good stuff. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm @Jason, and if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm @Jason as well. My email, if you're a founder and you're building an amazing company and you want to put me on your monthly update, is jason@mylastnamecalacanis.com. You can look that up on the Wikipedia. And if you have suggestions for people to be on the podcast, you can go to thisweekinstartups.com and put the suggestion in, and we'll ignore it. And we'll see you. Thanks to the sponsors. We really don't need your advice on guests. No, you can make a suggestion, but we rarely take them. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.